Hello, welcome to part 9 in my Sequential Growth Series. My name is Allie with Amory Speaks. This first part or portion of this series is all about the flow of energy and the pathways in which energy flows through. I have sort of designated these different design patterns to showcase the way that we can see different choice points and growth happening. This, like I said, is or did I say it's the 8th point of view? I think I said we're in part 9, but I didn't say point of view 8 yet. We're going to talk about the 8th point of view here. And so if you are new, I mean, you're more than welcome to listen here, but I would highly suggest watching 1 through 7 before watching here, because this here is the first stage that is non-physical. So 7 is the final stage of physical manifestation, and I'll talk more about kind of what that means and what we have about physical, mental, and spiritual energy and movement, and which types of energy embody which levels of the system. So there's sort of always three levels of each system that we can choose to look at, right? A mental, a physical, and a spiritual level. Also, it can be really helpful to understand instead of saying it in that way, especially because we're going to talk about non-physicality right now. It's not just mental, physical, and spiritual, but the mental state of it is the inner system, the inside processes, that electrical exchange of information that happens in regards to the system as a whole itself, the inward service, purpose, and processes. The physical system itself is the external system. It is the external presentation and the external exchanges that happen. So sometimes it's not exactly what we would consider to be physical manifestation. It's just the outer interaction with otherness in the third party space, in the ether, and that doesn't have to do with the inner system of providing stability, security, and productivity. This external has to do with, of course, that external security, definition, purpose, and functionality. So as I bring up these 8 and 9, and we'll talk a little bit more about what it means, I'm not just speaking about physical manifestation and tangibility, but I will be talking, of course, about the external system. It's still a full part of the function. 8 doesn't not have physicality to it. It doesn't not have an external system. It's just that it presents itself in a non-physical way. And then, of course, the flow, and the flow is intangible in itself and is sort of in a reflection and a space held for both the external and the internal to take place within. So that just as a brief reminder, and also sort of as laying a common ground, just in case anybody here has not heard or seen me talk about systems or seen my system series or anything like that, just to give an idea of what we're getting towards the whole here. We're getting towards the 9 and the final perspective, and I really want to outline and underline what is taking place here, because sometimes we look at it and it can seem like kind of nothingness, or redundant or repetitive, or kind of a place filler or holder, and it's really not that. There's plenty of distinct, unique happenings It's just they are assessing, interacting, and exchanging with those points that have already been accumulated and set into stone, kind of, so to speak, into structuring through the 1 through 7 pathway. So there'll be no more additional expression that is added on, and yet there's plenty of work to still be done. So with that said, let's I'll show my notes real quick just to keep it in line with all the other videos so far. You know, we've made it through all of these. We went through linear and sequential, or the staircase, as number 2. 3 is the spiral or the helix. 4 becomes the circle or cycles. 5 is the lemniscat, the figure 8. 6 being the torus-toroidal flow. 7 being the geometric view, understanding how geometry, platonic solids, all shapes are birthed out of these, you know, these building blocks and these foundational points. And now we get into 8. With 8 is sort of connecting those dots, is what I've talked about before, and about the space in between, the space that connects them, the container that holds space for this happenings, more happenings, all potentialities to sort of take place within. And then we'll have 9, which I'll talk about next time, and we'll conclude with the bookends and the full picture. 8 knows the goal. 8 has the goal in sight. It just, it's that point of recognition and response and retribution that comes in once all the things have already been set into motion. When we talk about the 8th point of view, what's happening, like I sort of already mentioned, is that all systems are running. All systems are processing, working together, exchanging, integrating, changing, responding. And that has to happen within a plane. It has to have a space, a boundaried space that this all can take place within. 9 and 1 really have solidified and set the boundary, but 8 moves within the boundary. It is not the boundary, but it's right up to the boundary, and anything and everything that can happen within it. It also is, I'll use this sort of visual, and not to confuse it with the lemniscat, the 5th point of view that I've talked about with the lemniscat already, but to bring in the circles, the double circles of the 8, and to see that we have this sort of what I like to call the lens of the observer, or the eye of the observer, you know, that we have this full view scope, like an eagle's eye sort of view, to where you can really get up out of the whole process and see it for what it is. See all the way down to 1, the tiny minutia of what's happening, all the way through all of those sequential buildings through 7. And then to see what the work is being done. Now, 8 asks us to interact, respond, and adapt, that's the word, adapt to any sort of input that's coming from the external world. And so it has to be flexible, it has to be fluid, and I don't want to define a shape, and I'm saying these are non-physical, and I really like that as the point of view for what energy is happening here, because it can't be strict and restricted and tied down. It can't be concrete structures. As much as we really want to create architecture that is sturdy and reliable and steady, the point is the world is uncertain. There is not actual steadiness. And whether you want to just look at the planet rotating, stars moving around, changes that happen in your own life, seasons, volcanoes, earthquakes, whatever kind of toss-up things that you want to use to put a pin in it and remember that, oh yeah, the external world changes. The point is to interact with the ever-changing external world, to be able to respond and react and keep moving in the current and in the flow of what else is taking place around us. Because it's not about, we cannot try to create these sterile environments where we have this checkpoint in and out to where, oh no, that doesn't come in because it could ruin in here, or oh, that doesn't apply here so it cannot come in, or, we're all subject to the third-party reality space, the weather, nature, physics, laws, whatever you want to call, like gravity, you know what I mean? Like there's some certain things that are just not debatable in our reality, So letting those things apply to the service, to the energy, to the movement, to the dream or goal, whatever it is that's been built and happening, this 8 point of view opens up the windows. It remembers, oh yeah, we have all this interaction to do. Oh yeah, we have a great purpose that others might see for us, or might hold for us, or might reflect to us that we didn't initially even see, or we could not have seen even. It's not like you didn't see it because you didn't look enough places, but it's just like it wasn't the time and space. It's not meant for that yet, but now it is, and so now it's time to switch it up, to respond, to get those processes chugging away in there that knew that work would come at some point, right? Perspective number 8 also asks us, like I just mentioned, to remember longevity, to remember the longer scope of a schedule or timing that the project fits into, that whatever it is, the physical manifestation actually operates within, and that every day isn't summer, blue skies, beautiful day. There's fall, there's winter, there's spring. What's this system, what's this place, what's this placescape doing during those times? How can it offset, counteract, or respond to those things that are not optimal, or even might be more optimal, but you didn't realize that at the first time, right? Kind of like if you had an amusement park and you built a whole great amusement park, but you forgot to have anything about water, any water park at all involved in it. It's like, once you get the feedback, once you have people coming there and they're like, oh, well, it's super hot during the summer and everybody's like dying and stuff, it'd be so much nicer if there was some like way to cool off, some rides that incorporated water, right? Because maybe that comes into the designer's play on a day that it rains, when everybody's there and it's been beautiful, and then it rains, and it doesn't ruin the rides, it doesn't ruin the experiment, the experiment. People respond well. They're like, oh, they're cooled off. Well, they stayed longer because it rained, or there's these interactions that happen that make you think, oh yeah, oh, water park, right? They loved the rain that much, that cooled the day off so much. We should have a water park area. There's just ways and catalyst experiences and feedback that come in through 8 that change the perspective. They don't really change the core idea of what you wanted to build, a fun time amusement park for people. It doesn't change that. Although some changes might come forth because now you need to build a whole other part, right? But that would never have come in and can never come in without the whole thing being ready to go, already opened. This firm doneness that happens with 7, and then 8 is when things are put into action that things start to change or respond. Yeah, I'm thinking if I've left anything out. I'm really excited to talk about numeric flow, about the values of numbers and how they do these things and how we can learn from them and how we can ascend and descend back through conceptual building of the numbers that really show us where those holes are, really show us how to backtrack without saying, oh, this whole park, shut it down, or oh, we'll make a whole separate water park somewhere else, or but how instead to keep something going and integrate it and bring in something new without having to shut it all down, change it all, rewrite and erase and say, oh no, that wasn't from the original depiction, so it doesn't fit in here. The space and the connectivity of all the dots really allows us to show different avenues, to show and see things that perhaps we did not visualize completely before, because you get really caught up in the things that right underneath your nose through the stages 1 through 7. And 7 can be such a fast-paced, true like accumulation of a lot of interesting points, and it can be easy to overlook certain things and not give things a full dedicated amount of time to then be able to work in, all of the troubleshooting, every single thing that could possibly go wrong, But when we start to build through 7 and we're at the gateway to 8, we're into 8, it doesn't mean 7's left behind. It doesn't mean that all of a sudden we don't remember 1 through 7. They're right there. They're integrated and tangible. It's organic to slide back down and to integrate and change things. And they cause a ripple symptomatic effect out into the other numbers as well, when we have the space for it, right? And 8 also really brings in that kind of ascension, descension, the sliding scale. I started to talk about that just a little bit, and I got distracted about talking about the double circles of 8 and the role of the observer. When we remember the zeros in place in there, the space, the movement, when we remember that it is about communication, exchange, and interaction, to making things beneficial, benevolent, happy, productive, a well-fit compromise for all. Compromise that doesn't ask anyone to relinquish something that means anything of worth to them, but in fact embodies worth even more, so that each one invigorates and enlightens the other important parts of it. So we shed those things that don't serve well. We shed the chafe. We shed, those things that are meant to be gone, while still keeping together this great promise of productivity, of what's highest and best for all, so that the compromise is never negative. It's never sorrowful or regretful or mournful or anything like that. It's uniting and invigorating. And also I'll talk very quickly here before we close it out, just about the shadow aspects, just about forceful, negative, karmatic retribution that can come in at this time. If you are so powerful as to be able to construct a negative system that lasts this long, because it's very rare, it's very hard to do. It takes a lot of attention and restriction, constraint, and power to be able to hold something this far into the negative stage of building. Not to say that it's impossible, but what will happen, and what does happen at stage number 8, point of view number 8, is that you have to put on the horsey blinders now. You have to have actual constructed mechanism that gets placed over creator consciousness, the person who set this whole project into role. They themselves have to have a negative alignment, powerful enough to hold this position for it, and that's very hard to do, because you're lying. It's a giant lie you have to hold to yourself, that now by 8 you think you're rivaling God. It is where it will come down to, and where your mind and your soul really has to be strangled out so completely, and emaciated, like it has to be starved out, it has to be wilted, it has to be totally chained and broken in order for the mental space to form this type of egregore of negativity, this real master over yourself. You have to, your inner heart, unfortunately, your fractal source of creator is your first slave. It's your most beaten, most downtrodden slave of them all. It's your favorite slave. It's the one closest to you, the one you abuse the most, but always comes back. Like, you see these in movies, where we have the evil bad guy, and there's always sort of their toadstool step on, their wingman, their sidekick, except that it's like they're always the one who's abused the most, right? They're like their go-to. I know there's a word for it, but it's slipping my mind. But I'm sure you guys get what I mean. But in our inner self, our slave, and our heart center and our soul becomes that slave, that first one. It's very hard to do to the self, especially when you start to try to pretend to allow external exchange to happen, and you need others to agree to this really detrimental tyranny. You have to have a really strong pillar that you think that you're standing on, that you can promote to others out there in the third party space for them to actually get along and agree with you, for them to solidify that slave master cycle that's built your whole system. And that, again, unfortunately reconfirms to that poor slave within that, yeah, you are meaningless. Yeah, you are nothing without the head, without the authority figure, without this giant control mechanism. You wouldn't survive. You're nothing. And so to get others to confirm that, that really pushes that down, that really cements that in. And if and when we get into, anyone can get into a place like that in a negative realm, what happens with interactions is that, I've mentioned this sort of in the beginning, the more beginning episodes, but the one has never actually grown into a whole number 2. And so the sequential growth phases up through 1 through 7 and into 8, they never actually happened. They didn't. Sorry to let you know, but they've never actually been able to be interacted with in the real third party reality space, the co-creative space, that's the ether, a part of infinite intelligence, is God source spacing. It's never actually been exposed out there. What you've done is created a laboratory sterile environment in 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, and you've gone in your own place where others can't come in and do anything or make any impressions, and you've falsely ran the numbers. You've done all the processes, except that you micromanage and only allow the scenarios and situations that you pre-planned for to happen during this building. But you have your blinders on, so you don't care, and you think, oh yeah, this is going great, oh, it's going just to plan, oh yeah, it's just working out perfectly, I'm so smart, I'm a genius, I just knew this all from the start. Anyone else who sees anything, you're an idiot, you're stupid, you haven't been here from the start, you don't know why it's this way, it is this way. And it kind of pushes and excuses out and justifies any of its incorrectness, falsities, or mismanagement within by excluding out those people who don't have an opinion that they want to hear. And it's not conducive to what they think that they're building. And so when they get to stage 8, you're really at 1.8. You're not actually really ever even in 8. But it's a very dangerous place to be at, because you have all of this hoarded up energy, and it's negative energies, and so it needs to lash out, it needs to prove its position, it needs to be on the offense and also defense at every moment, because God forbid anybody points out the fact that you're at 1.8, not a true 8. And they know it, and whoever it is, we know when we do these wrong things, and that's why we're super hyper vigilant about criticism, or if anybody notices certain things, or appearances, and all this stuff is very important to us versus what actually is happening within. And again, lies, negative systems, we should know that those things are not a positive, free-flowing energy. They don't serve the whole. It's not a holistic approach. It's separatism, it's division. And that in itself is a restricted mode of negativity, So to go back and critique yourself if you're in this position, But most who force into this position, even when they get the negative feedbacks, even if the things come into their life that really start to try to help or show that this is wrong, they will push them away. They will attack them. They will make up all of these reasons inside their own head that person or that thing is wrong, or the competing system or dream or model isn't as good as theirs because of this, and this. They stole their idea. There's all these different things that come up at this time in this phase if we've built negatively so far. However, if you've built honestly, or you're working towards honesty, you're really trying to incorporate that 8, you'll have wonderful third person view moments. You'll have these great third party interactions that do bring in changes, that do the water park kind of thing to you, and where you feel it happen organically, where it happens kind of divinely, where things just, they are brought to you in a way that makes you want to do the improvement. It feels like you thought of it. It feels like, it came from some unexpected circumstance that was uncontrolled, sent to you by divine thought. Your spirits, your ancestors sent it to you, your higher self, or someone who you see as a guide, or a messenger from God or something comes in with this great critique or input or something, that some stranger or something, is an unexpected thing. But because we're open and willing and looking, we can integrate those things. We can take them in and say, thank you for that very much. I will tailor fit that to my likings and make it work for here. Or, wow, I didn't even see that would work better from here. Let me step into your perspective and see what else I see over there. Let's have a conversation about that. To where you can really integrate that incoming information to make it part of you, to make it your own, in creative, honest ways, not in thievery, in usury, in this plagiarism kind of self-serving manner, to where we want to twist things so that we think we can be seen and get the retribution for the contribution. It doesn't have anything like that. That doesn't even cross a mind of a positively aligned system, person, or experience. It's about the in the moment, in the now, and then the gratitude and the excitement about what that takes us forward to build, the newness that sprouts right off of that, and sharing that. And that's what kind of, takes prominent intentional space with the creation and with the changes and everything. So noticing where your heart's at, noticing what input feels like, and where your emotions and your energy's at, will really help you test where you think you're at a phase 8, point of view 8, So keeping a fresh eye, taking a new look at things really is so helpful at this stage. So I've talked for half an hour. I think I'm going to leave it there. I'm trying to do these videos a little shorter. I hope you enjoyed it. Love to hear feedback. If anybody has any, feel free to leave comments, send me emails, messages on Telegram if you use that app. I'm over there. Other than YouTube, BitChute, that's really the only places, or my direct email, which is always in the description. If you are looking to send me an email, I love to hear from people, so feel free to send me one. The address is in the description. Other than that, I hope to see you next time. You can definitely check out all the other videos on a playlist on my channel. If you're interested in systems or shadow work, you can find a ton of playlists on my old channel, there's links in the description as well for that, if you have free time and are looking for more from me in the meantime. Thanks so much for your contribution to our collective. Thanks for witnessing mine, and I'll see you next time.